By 2008, we picked up over $250 million worth of listings. And then the market crashed on us, completely crashed. I think that it took us 24 months to dismount from that market. During that time, I went out, my business started back at zero. This industry is a reputation business. And being, in my early 20s, there was only so much of a reputation that I had. And I remember Alex going around knocking on doors, going back to the basics. And Alex, I was blown away by the simple concept of his ability to get video and put it online and be able to play it anywhere, anytime, any place. Next time I knock on a door and I compete against Sally Jesse Raphael that has a hell of a reputation, I'm gonna pitch that I'm gonna make a movie on their property. I made a commitment. If I'm gonna, number one, be in the business, number two, grow a business in South Florida, which is one of the most competitive markets in the world, I'm gonna have to work harder. I'm gonna have to work smarter. And I'm gonna really have to go above the grade in order to grow my reputation in this market. And the internet for me was my aha moment. You know what? The internet now makes competition even.
Welcome to the Top Real Estate Influencers Podcast. Your host, Alex Montalenti. We're here with Jorge Guerra. He's the CEO of Real Estate Salesforce, a true pioneer in the real estate brokerage model, a true influencer in real estate, in social media, leading with video. Over 15 years ago, he was doing video online, YouTube videos, all of that. He created a presence online. He created a presence with his brokerage. He's one of the fastest growing brokerages. He's out of Miami, just like me. And today we're going to talk about, what inspired all of this, how it unfolded, how you rolled right through COVID, like unstoppable, undisrupted, and let's get into it. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing phenomenal. Thank you very much for having me. It's a great honor.
Definitely. So tell me, first, before we get into it, you've been in real estate for a while, your family's in real estate, but where did it all start? Where did all the inspiration come from?
So you know what, funny story. My family's not in real estate, believe it or not. My family is in construction. So you know what, my story here in South Florida is common. I am a son of a political immigrant who came over here during the Castro regime. My father came here with a 9th grade education, and the only job that he was able to get was construction, hard labor. So think that I grew up in a drywall family. My father, like most immigrants, would wake us up in the morning and give us two options. You're going to be an attorney or you're going to be a doctor. So think that I grew up with that mentality. My freshman year of college, I got into Barry University pre-med program. My whole family was super excited. I was studying from 9 to midnight. I wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, but I was definitely one of the hardest workings. And you know what, to be honest with you, Alex, I didn't enjoy it. And I told my father I wanted to take a semester off. And like most Cuban parents, he had a heart attack. And he said, no way, my son, I've been working my whole life to get you where you're at. And if you do decide to not go to school, think that you're not going to live off me, you're going to work in my company. So think that one summer, I started doing drywall. And in the middle of the development, there was a sales office. There was air conditioning, and there was a cute girl working inside. For me, those were 3 motivators to go from construction to sales. And I would find myself making coffee with a comida at these sales offices. And sure enough, one day the owner walked in, and construction and sales weren't allowed to mingle. And on the way out, he said, "You can't be in here." And I said, "What can I do to be in here?" And he said, "You know what? I'm looking for a sales assistant. Come here with a shirt and tie." And long story short, I ended up being the best salesperson at the end of that summer. And I had an aha moment. And my aha moment was that I was designed to sell. I was designed to, go out there, compete, identify value propositions and work it. And for me, that's where my love started. Think that happened in 1999. I was 19, 20 years old. Okay. Think that by the end of that summer, I obviously got my real estate license. And by the time I was 24, I opened up RESF. And what I love about that was that I was naive. I didn't know any better. And in the back of my mind, I told myself, you know what, if I fail, who cares? I'm still young. I can always start again. And I think that, that thought what was the one that allowed me to say, you know what, let me get creative. And I'll share with you a little bit of how my company formed in sort of that direction. And think that I opened up in 2004 By 2008, we picked up over $250 million worth of listings. Okay. And then the market crashed on us, completely crashed. I think that it took us 24 months to dismount from that market, in the market we were in. During that time, I went out, my business started back at zero. As you know very well, and you built a company on, this industry is a reputation business. And being, in my early 20s, there was only so much of a reputation that I had. And I remember Alex going around knocking on doors, going back to the basics. And people would open up the doors and I would get in the room and they would say, George, I love your enthusiasm. I love your aggressiveness, but Sally Jesse Raphael has been selling here for the last 20 years. And chances are, I might, if I sell my house, be working with her. And then one day, and here's where I got my big aha moment from a tech perspective. I had a buddy of mine that flew down from the New York Film Academy, and he opened up his computer, he opened up a browser, and he went to a website, and he had a video player on that website. And he was able to play a 5-minute short film that he filmed in his semester in New York. And this was 2003, maybe 2 to 3 years before YouTube even opened up. And Alex, I was blown away by the simple concept of his ability to get video and put it online and be able to play it anywhere, anytime, any place. And I told myself this: next time I knock on a door and I compete against Sally Jesse Raphael that has a hell of a reputation, I'm gonna pitch that I'm gonna make a movie on their property, and that since the internet boomed, the first place people go is they search online. And when I did have that opportunity to pitch, at the end of that presentation, that owner said, you know what? I like the direction that you're going. I can see where, you're going to get success experimenting in that direction. And from there, I made a commitment. And my commitment was simple. Alex, if I'm going to, number one, be in the business, number two, grow a business in South Florida, which is one of the most competitive markets in the world, as you know about it, I'm going to have to work harder. I'm going to have to work smarter. And I'm going to really have to go above the grade in order to grow my reputation in this market. And the internet for me was my aha moment. You know what? The internet now makes competition even. My listings are going to be next to everybody else's listings. Now what matters is how well I market not only myself, but my properties. So think that I started my company really creating a very high standard of how we are going to list properties. And I set standards, HDR photography, wide angle lens, and we're going to make a movie that really creates an experience that the consumer is walking that property from their iPhone, their iPad, and their computer. And then here's been the secret of my success, Alex, is that I've been consistent with that value proposition for over 15 years. If you go back in my YouTube channel, you'll see my first video that looks like I'm having an epileptic seizure. And you'll see my videos now that it's a drone coming through the window, showing the property, ending with credits of the agents. So think that from a production perspective, you see the growth in the channel. But even my first video that was a epileptic seizure, I still remember the consumer saying, wow, wow. And I've been chasing sort of that wow factor from a marketing perspective, my whole entire life. So think that's a little bit of the journey of how we got into video, and think that I've seen the consistency from a marketing perspective of what it does. It cuts my showing time by 90%. It helps grow my reputation. Google eats it up and makes my SEO jump up. And again, from a reputation perspective, it's easier to sort of find. Think that also, one of the things that I've known from the very beginning from my marketing class is that branding, it's very important. Same color, same scheme, same font. And think that one of the things that we love to do and that I think makes us special is that, from a marketing messaging perspective, we have a calendar that we look at. We look to see how we can tie our community with our agents and create a piece that connects with the audience, and it be branded. It be smart text and one that can resonate with that audience. And I think that a combination of creating some of these value propositions for the agents that really impact the consumer and their social circle, and being consistent with that, Alex, is really the secret to where we are and why we are. We spoke a little bit.
It sounds like, the keys to success for other agents listening is really look out for those opportunities to stand out and be unique. You saw the video as a way to stand out because you're like, okay, they're telling me this local agent's going to win the listing. So what can you do different? So you found a way to be different and be cutting edge and be technology. I mean, I totally see it with the branding. You are completely consistent across the board with your branding. It's always the same branding. And that's important. And you have powerful branding too. Like the color schemes are very catchy. They work. And they have you ask the question, like, what is RESF?
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, all of that is definitely working. The video, the consistency. I mean, I see you everywhere. And it's funny because you started in 1999. I started exactly in 1999 too. My mom came from Romania. She was communist times in Romania. They took away her house. She came to US with nothing. She got real estate. And then in 1999, she had to deal with the internet. And she went from like, you know, the magazine with all the listings with one picture of the property to now I have to upload the properties. So then I launched a website and marketing company from that. But I saw the evolution. Like it used to be like one photo on the listing. Then suddenly you could upload 10 photos on the listing and that was cool. Then if you didn't put at least 20 photos on the listing, well, then you weren't cool enough, you know, and then it was like, well, where's the video and where's the virtual, you know, the virtual tour and all that. So it's like the evolution of it all. But you sounds like, you know, you've been there from the beginning.
Well, listen, with definitely there's been an evolution. And I think one of the biggest secrets is always chasing, you know, the best way to really promote under the current, you know, marketing environment. And, you know, we've seen it, you know, from one picture, 10 pictures, 20 pictures to video, to virtual tours, to now 360-degree videos. So think that really it's the chase and just being able to walk into a room and have an up. You know what? Someone's doing this. Well, let me tell you that I take it to another level and let me tell you why and how. And I love that you brought up, you know, virtual tours. One of my, and this is an off-topic market, but I think anybody in real estate is going to enjoy this. This Christmas, I bought my son an Oculus, and I don't know if he had an opportunity to play with an Oculus, but I bought it for him. I asked him, you know, that I wanted to play with, and he told me, yeah, Dad, for sure. And then for 2 days, he wouldn't let me play with it, and he was playing with it the whole time. And one day I woke up and he was asleep in the couch with the Oculus fully charged. And obviously I got it and I put it on. And Alex, 2 hours later, I was at Best Buy buying myself a pair of Oculus. And the reason why I did it is because I saw a YouTube video of a farmer and he gave me a tour of his farm. And when I would look to the right, I would see the hairs in his ears. And when I would look straight, I would see his farm. And I told myself, wow, you know, what an ability to be able to put you and transform you in an environment. Now, I thought that was cool. What I thought was cooler was that in December, the #1 app in the App Store was the Oculus. Okay, so I need to imagine that we were locked up because of COVID. #1 app, Oculus, is $299. This is not a commercial for Facebook, but $299. And I think anybody in the luxury space already has one or is going to have one. So just to have, you know, a 360 cam, which you can really use it, and an Oculus, you know, what a nice little value proposition moving forward for that luxury market. I just thought it was pretty cool. And
100%. My buddy launched a virtual reality company, and I was like, it's going to happen where we sit here, and instead of going to see all these buildings in Miami, we just sit in the office, pop on the Oculus, and now we're in that building in Miami, looking at the amenities, looking from the view, enjoying it all.
And think this, it's going to take us, the real estate community, to bring that evolution to the market. You know, the faster we adapt, the faster we hire the faster we chase that perfect listing, I think the faster we'll get there.
Yep, totally. So now tell me about the, you know, one thing I appreciate about your company, what I've witnessed. I've been to your physical space as well as in the virtual world, but what I appreciated the most is like the physical space was empty because everybody's working virtually, right? And I love that you don't call it a virtual brokerage, you call it a practical brokerage. And I think that's a huge shift in the mindset of realtors that happened during COVID. Personally, I think it should have happened many years ago, because I got tired of going to real estate offices, meeting people at Starbucks, when it's so much more effective and efficient to be on a Zoom call. You know, I still appreciate a one-on-one, like we go out for a cafecito and have a nice conversation, 100%. But in the world of so many meetings, it becomes more effective that way. And I love that you guys were already implementing, this was years ago when we were first getting started with RealGrader, you already were like doing Facebook Workplace, you had like interaction, you had webinars, you had all of that going on way before COVID happened. So, I mean, tell me a little bit about how you got inspired for all of that versus going to the traditional brokerage looking at more of like, how do we be practical for realtors?
So, you know what? Great question. And again, I've never really worked for anybody but myself. So think that I've always built my company based on what I experience, and I factor in a little bit of common sense, and I bring it in. So for me, growing up, 2006, 2007, seeing the internet boom right in front of me, think that me and you, I don't know if you know this, we were the first generation to go to college with a computer. We're sort of tech natives for the most part. So when the internet boomed, I told you I had my aha moment that, hey, from a marketing perspective, this is an awesome way to penetrate. Think that a couple years later, maybe 5 or 6 years later, Alex, we had another revolution that a lot of people didn't notice. And I call it, the mobile revolution, where agents were walking around searching the MLS on their iPhone, where agents were going to RPR and telling people how much their property is worth and giving out reports on their phone. And with a tip of their finger, Alex, they were signing contracts, on their phones. So for me, I knew that agents that were going to perform, aren't going to go sit in the office. They're not going to drive 20, 30 minutes, find a parking spot, get down, set up their computer. They've lost an hour of productivity. And in this business in South Florida, as competitive as it is, an hour, 2 hours ahead of your competition makes the difference whether I got a listing or whether I don't. Not to mention, as mobility has exploded, so has our comfort level. And you know what? Sometimes I might want to wake up in the morning really, really, really early and hit some of my emails or do some of my searches, and to get in my car like we did traditionally, to me, didn't work. Now, I do think that in the office, there is the need for an office. I think that sometimes, excuse my French, when the shit hits the fan, sometimes you got to run to that office, or when there's a big deal that needs massaging or deeper thought, or when you're planning your business. I think that's an awesome opportunity to go to the office, or when you're meeting a client that you're not sure about, or that you haven't vetted, or when you want to talk business with a client. I think that there needs to be a space for that. But I think that the office is more of a transient location where agents come in 1 or 2 hours, maybe do some legwork, some coffee, some water cooler talk, maybe sharpen some of their skills, but forget about it. In this market, you got to be out there knocking on doors, meeting people, getting involved in your community. It's a hands-on approach when you have 55,000 agents. And again, one of the most competitive markets in the history of the world. So I think that obviously evolved into me searching for platforms where we can communicate, collaborate. And when Facebook opened up, I thought Facebook was obviously social media. We had the private groups, and we took advantage of that, creating content, because you got to feed the beast to get participation in it. And we saw that, hey, everybody understood Facebook, everybody, was there all the time. So why not create some space in there? And then as time evolved, Facebook came out with Workplace. And sure enough, separation of church and state, I said, hey, you know what? Let me see if this makes sense for me. And you know what? I was able to break it down into channels that I thought provided value in different sectors of my industry. I was able to create a calendar. I was able to record stuff, and I was able to keep it private. And just for my agents alone. And the beauty of it is, Alex, is that my oldest agent is 89 years old. My youngest agent is 19. And what they both have in common is Facebook. So for me, it was a very easy transition to come into my company and really not miss a beat than to have to train them on some sort of other different software. So for me, a combination of being mobile. And then with mobile comes training. For me, if I have a live class, I can get 12 people. If I go virtual on a bad day, I get 25 people. So think that my audience doubles, and I can record it. And again, one of the things that I've learned, and one of the biggest challenges now from a brokerage perspective, is really meeting our agents where our agents are at, and no longer making the agents go to us, and creating that freedom. I think does a couple things. Number one, it creates a culture where they understand where to go to get their value proposition from their broker. Okay. And number two, the new generation that's coming before us, already understanding that we live in a paperless world and in a virtual world, that nothing stops them from learning, from succeeding, besides them putting their time and their effort anywhere they want. It takes away, a lot of the excuses, and those that want to work, there's no rules. It can go 0 to 100 real quick. And those that don't, we get to really decipher them out quicker than before.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that is still in the early stages from what I see, which is surprising to me. Like, you're using Facebook Workplace. We use Facebook Workplace at our company. I was introduced to Slack. I tried that too, but I liked Facebook Workplace because people were used to it. Like you said, like anybody at any age range could just hop on and use it. And it blows my mind that I still go to offices and I'm like, what's your internal communication system? They're like, what do you mean? We email each other. I'm like,
WhatsApp. WhatsApp is
like, it's weird because this year I started saying to people, email is an old technology. It's actually outdated for me.
Oh, listen.
The top. Now, if it's not a text message, I'm not reading it.
So you know what? Funny you say that. And unfortunately, in my industry, I have to dig into my emails, and it's a chore. It's a chore. It's you know, it's worse than going to the gym, to be honest with you. And it is the least effective way to communicate with me, to talk to me, and to be consistent with me, because I go there and I look for the most important, what I need to do, not what I want to do.
Yeah. No, I mean, as you bring that up, I'm thinking, yeah, realtors still need to go to email because that's where the clients are interacting. It's like, what if we bring the clients into our Facebook Workplace? Then we'd really have an awesome thing going on.
For sure, sure.
But yeah, from the education standpoint too, like having a central place where agents can ask questions, where they can go watch videos, all of that, the groupings.
Listen, for us, we've even, you know, we have an attorney that has a channel. You know, we have a lender that has a channel. So we're, again, you know, my goal is very simple. I want you to be in here and have the same resources as if you were in my office. And that's, you know, my ultimate goal. And have that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whether you're in Costa Rica, whether you're in Mexico, or whether you're home with COVID. I don't care where. I want to be able to give you that feeling.
Yep. So where do you think things are going next? I mean, well, let's talk for a second, like, as having this virtual concept, this practical concept, when COVID happened, I mean, everybody was freaking out, right? But I think companies like me and you weren't freaking out. We were just like, all right, let's ride this roller coaster. This is exactly, you know, where we want business to kind of be moving.
So listen, COVID was obviously an unexpected event. Think that at that moment, I was chairman of the Miami Association of Realtors, you know, over 55,000 members, and I was in charge. And the minute I was elected to that position, my mother said, oh my God, market's gonna crash. When Georgie's in charge, you can imagine, you know, she's joking around. And sure enough, you know, 3 months into my tenure, we got a pandemic, of all things. So think that not only from a leadership perspective, from representing 50,000 people. And luckily for me, I had a phenomenal team in my association that didn't miss a beat, was able to move at the speed of now, was open and able to take direction and implement it and innovate. For me, it was awesome to be a part of that. Think that no doubt a lot of that was reflected in our internal company, what we did and how we did it. But I think that during those times, it was very important to communicate and be consistent with your messaging to not only your agents, but your agents to your audience. So like I said, you know, we were using Workplace. We've been meeting virtual for a long time. So think that day I ran out of Zoom users that can connecting to our meetings. And I'm sure that was common in most environments. Think that what that time did for us is it really reinforced how strong a lot of the things that we were doing in the past really work, and how important it is, or better yet, it taught people more than ever how to really live in that environment, perform in that environment, and be comfortable in that environment, which wasn't before. Right before the pandemic, we were still doing conference calls. Now you call me with a couple people and I'm like, hey, hang up the phone and let's Zoom. Because now, you know, it's really changed the way we sort of communicate. So think this, that I believe that the direction that we're going, all right, is I think there's going to be more investment in tech, in social office, virtual environments. You know, like you said, we're going to put on the headphones and we're going to be in a big boardroom. I think we're ways from that, but I think that's where it's trending. And I think we're going to be able to do that with our clients as well as our peers moving forward. More importantly, that's the tech that I'm going to be looking for. I'm also going to be looking for AI, automated innovations behind the scenes. You know, I would love that people are reaching out to whoever reaches out to me when I'm asleep, whether it's social media, whether it's email, whether it's phone. And I think automation and artificial intelligence is going to play a big factor in that. So I think that's going to be interesting. I've heard a lot of people talk about data and data analytics. I'm not really wowed by that. I think there's been real estate data for 1,000 years. I think we know what data triggers, the majority of the people that move, expire listings, list pendants. And so I think those triggers are there. So that doesn't wow me so far. And I'm curious to see where this NFT, when it comes to owning real estate digitally, I'm interested in seeing how that develops. I think there's been obviously a lot of bad news in that sector, but I think, real estate needs to be more liquid moving forward. And I think there's going to be opportunities in properties that are going to open up that opportunity. And for me, it's an interesting space that I'd be interested in seeing where that evolves. When it comes to, and this has been big talk lately, the metaverse, I think only fools rush in. I think that in the metaverse, location doesn't matter because we got goggles and we can zoom in anywhere. I think the value proposition needs to come from much bigger, like, give me Prada, and I think Prada, the land around Prada gets better. But anyways, I think the future is interesting. I think that my ultimate goal, Alex, more than anything, is really to sort of create some sort of real business that gives my kids an opportunity, to have something to fall back on. And that's going to be the biggest challenge with the tech that's coming in our industry from all sorts of direction, the laws that are obviously, threatening as well our industry.
Yeah, I think one thing people don't realize with new tech, I mean, you realize, I realize it, is like, it's early, right? Like back in the day, let's look at like QR codes. People were like, oh, QR codes. And everybody's like, well, I like QR codes, but it's so early. And like, not everybody has the reader and la. But here we are years later, and QR codes are like the biggest thing since sliced bread, right? Like every restaurant uses it. We're all using it for digital cards. And it's like, it's happening everywhere. All this new technology that's coming on the scene, we got to think how really early it is. Like we may not see the fruits of it for like 10, 15 years.
Listen, only fools rush in. I think that, this is a great time to observe, to sort of look for trends. But, most wise investors always say this, it's got to make sense. It's got to make sense. And, I think a lot of things that we're seeing right now don't make any sense.
Right.
to be nice.
Yeah, totally. All right, so tell me where you stand on social media and which social media platforms. For the agents that are listening, most of the audience that we have are either newer agents or they're agents that want to be influencers. They want to learn like what are the influencers doing. What do you see as some of the more effective social media technologies out there that you see working either for yourself or for your top producing agents?
So you know what, I love that question, and I go back, and I'm sure you can think this back to 24 years ago, where our only marketing and reputation building tools was a phone call, was a postcard, or a letter, a billboard, or some sort of signage. And I think the biggest thing that I've noticed, and it's not even an aha moment, it's more like a wow moment, is how people have been able to build a reputation 10 times faster online than those traditional methods. People who've been in the business 20, 30 years, are being taken out by people that are in the business 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 years, just because of their ability to articulate what they do in an environment that doesn't go away, that's consistent, that's that can get built upon. And you're able to storytell in a way where people...
That's the big one. Like when you're talking about video, and I was thinking of the evolution of video, it's like video has been getting bigger, but I think what's changed recently is the storytelling component, bringing the agent into the video as the storyteller, that creates that relatedness, that creates that brand, that creates that.
Well, I think this, and there's being in video for a very long time, I can tell you this, that we first started doing videos just showing the property. And, we got some agents that got a little brave and wanted to be in the video. And one of the things that I always preach is this, the future real estate agent is like a Channel 7 reporter that can bring somebody from the front yard to the backyard and keep the consumer engaged and connect. Whoever can do that consistently and show and sell that all day in all their formats, is going to grow organically, and they're going to get business like they can't imagine. But they have to be able, they got to practice it. They got to be consistent. And for me, that's the future agent. And you see that a lot, with Ryan Serhan. He's, making it fun, getting behind the camera, and think that, when I think back 24 years ago on how much money I needed to spend to hit my target demographics, and how now I'm a TikTok dance and a flip of a hat away from hitting them at zero cost, high effort with high stress, but zero cost. I'm almost blown away by how the internet has really allowed you to build that reputation. But more importantly, and I think, and you've made a business of this, is really organizing and being able to really story tell that when somebody does go out there and search to verify. And like, I'm sure I'm sure you preach, today, my consumers, they might hear about me, they might get a business card, but you better believe they're typing my name into Google and they're pressing search, and they're going to the end of the internet to make sure that I'm not a crazy person and that I'm somebody who's capable. And they're looking for a couple things. They're looking for me socially. They want to see me with my family. They want to see me normally. They want to see me professionally. And professionally doesn't mean a lifestyle picture only. They want proof of success. They want to see a closer. They want to see somebody who's training, somebody who's out there, really moving.
I would argue that they're actually looking for the opposite. They're looking for the red flag.
Well, right? and you know what? I'm coming in there from a verification perspective, but in Miami, for sure, sure, you're looking for the red flag.
I just moved into a house in Surfside, and of course, I'm going to Google the landlord, right? And why am I looking? Like I'm really looking to get a pat on the back, like it's a good landlord. I'm actually looking because I'm looking for the red flag so that I can see if I have drama in my life or not, right? And it's like, right, good, no drama.
Is he part of the mafia? Do I need to pay on time? Is he going to break a leg or sue me? No, I'm just kidding. But so anyways, going back to what I was saying, they Google, they verify, and you know what? Online tells a story. It tells a story, and a lot of times people don't take the time to really curate it accordingly. To go back there and clean out, dig out, take out old pictures, put on new pictures, and really accent what you want your consumer and your audience to sort of see. One thing that I tell people is that, this online world is not private. It's very public, and you built an image from it. And, I love to tell people that on social media, I really like to show 5 things and 5 things only. Number 1, that I'm married. Number 2, that I got 2 beautiful boys, because guess what? Social circle, my past clients make up the majority of my business, and they really care about those 2 people. They care about my family, they love it, and they really know that if it's important to me, it's important to them. The next thing that I like to show is that I'm in the real estate business in general. Second thing I like to show is that I am successful in the real estate business. All right. And the last thing that I like to show is that I'm normal. So I will go out to an event. I will socialize. The only thing is that I'll probably put my drink down and not put that in the picture. But besides that, I want to create the image that I'm approachable. Yeah. Alex, everything else is personal outside of that. So I really try to curate that. I really try to make that, the main things that I really focus on.
Yeah, that's true. Now that I'm imagining your profile, because that's the thing people don't realize. I may not comment, I may not like, but it's like I'm seeing you online, right? Everybody's getting seen online, and how are you getting seen? How are you getting perceived is a big deal. A lot of people don't pay attention to that, but it's important to have those major pillars, like all those, like your brand pillars, like this is how you show up online.
For sure.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And I think, a lot of people, for those listening, you want to look at what your settings are. Are you private? Are you public? Do you want to be public? Do you want to be private? If you're going to be public, then be public. And then, what is it that you're putting out there on all these?
Well, you know what? The public and the private, I always tell people that secret agents don't do very well in my industry. This is a job that to get in front of people costs a lot of money if you're not smart. And money in this industry is one that you have to be very smart with, because the market changes. And if you're not smart and frugal, you won't make a market change. This is a business for that person that's willing to go out there and put himself out. And I think that whoever you list their house, I think is going to expect that and want an agent that's out there moving the needle, showing their peers, getting in front of their peers. So I think that before you get into the industry, and obviously there's many situations, and I have almost 500 agents, and I do have some women for personal reasons need to be private. And listen, those are some of my most success. There's really no rules to success in this business, but when you're looking for that edge, think that, those are probably best practices to be able to go out there and not close that up.
Yeah, we've had to turn away clients because they didn't want to go public on social media, and it's like, well, then we can't really grow your presence because it's going to hit a ceiling.
So, you know what, my arguments have always been very good, and I've been able to convince a lot of people. And unfortunately, as sad as it sounds, I've had some women from a domestic perspective that require some privacy, but are still able to leverage other ways to get business, and are still in the industry. And only in those sensitive situations do I tend to back off.
Yeah, totally. All right, so let's end it with, I'd love to hear your vision. I mean, I get the family perspective from you, and that you're building something for your family, a legacy here. You definitely built a name in the market, and I see you traveling all over speaking at different major industry events. But as far as like a 3-year and a 5-year vision, what's your 3-year, 5-year vision with your company?
So you know what? My 5-year plan is that I'm on a beach somewhere having a drink. That's my 5-year plan. But my 3-year, my 5-year plan to sort of get there. Listen, I'm going to be honest with you. It's really keeping consistent with what I've been doing in the past. There's no secret to what moves the needle in my industry. And think that, like everybody in this industry, you control your destiny. You want to grow, you got to wake up a little bit earlier, you got to work a little bit more, you got to spend money more on those pain points that really move the needle. You always have to innovate. You are not the CEO, you are the chief innovation officer in your company. I think that you always have to be spotting what makes sense and trending. Okay. And think that you always have to be showing and telling your audience consistently, not only what you do, but asking yourself this question, what value am I providing to them? So think that, for me, just being consistent with the value in training that I give my agents, being consistent in making sure that from a marketing perspective, that we're able to show what we list in the best manner forward. From a culture perspective, that we understand that from a company perspective, that we're family, that we learn together, that education starts in my office, doesn't end in my office. And last but not least, from an admin perspective, keep on what we're doing paperless, being able to pay people fast and on time, and just making sure that from a recruitment perspective, that we're always recruiting, and from a retention perspective, that we're always grateful for who we have, and that we're always on top of making them successful within our industry. And think that recipe is not a secret one. It's one that takes a lot of work and consistency, but think that is the only drivers, Alex, that I've been able to find that grows my business at a competitive rate, consistently throughout the years. And so my 3-year plan is that whatever hiccup we are about to enter, if there is a hiccup that we're going to enter it, that we figure out that shift, and that we're able to get our agents performing at the level they need to stay in the industry, because a lot of people are going to leave. And last but definitely not least, be relevant in my industry. So as you know, I'm very involved this year. I'm going to be next year, better yet, I'm going to be the secretary for Florida Realtors. So I'm on a polls this year as a candidate. And think that I will be representing 220,000 realtors throughout the whole entire state of Florida. So think from I need to make sure that in the next 3 to 5 years, our industry stays secure, that insurance rates stay low, that affordable housing is something realistic to the people here in South Florida, that there's no rent control. So I think that we have a lot of things that are coming up in the pipeline, and I just want to be relevant for those 3 to 5 years. Make sure that within my industry that I'm a good steward, and that if there is change, that I'm part of that change, and that change is benefiting property rights and homeowners. So think that I want to make sure I'm in the business, that from a tech perspective, I stay where I need to be. And then from a property rights perspective, man, that Florida maintains the best state in the nation to come down here and live and bring your family and grow your business.
I love it.
There you go.
Yeah, the consistency is absolutely key. And that's where a lot of people fall off, I think. It sounds like an easy word. It's like,
listen, you know what? I use the word grit in my company. I always say, like, to be a good agent, you need grit. You need to be able to come into the office whether you want to or not. And when you do that, you learn quickly what doesn't work. And you learn what works. And there is no recipe in real estate. If not, we would have one coach, we would have one book, and we would all do it. You know, this is not accounting. It's not a CPA. You know, this is real estate, and real estate, everybody has to strike their own tune with their audience. And that tune is original. That tune is self-developed. It's the spirit of entrepreneurship within your heart, and how you go out there and you attack the people you know, the people you don't know, and then how consistent you are. And that requires grit, because you don't always see success always, or at the beginning, or during the middle, or during the end. But you have to believe that you're passionate about the industry. You have to believe in the techniques and the methods that you use. And you have to believe that if you're consistent with these things, that like the gym, you're going to grow your muscles slowly but surely. Listen, you know.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here today. This is a great episode.